deal with a lot of founders, and they always kind of wonder, like, how do companies just magically raise money overnight? And what I'm hearing, though, is you had a lot of momentum going for you and a lot of attention. It sounds like probably from just a unique concept and a very desperate time for people that, were hungry for human connection and engagement. In addition to your target audience, also as your target funders and, capital allocators and things of that sort. So I guess, you put 200K of your own money on the line, bold move. What happened after that? And like, what were some of the metrics that you hit with Launch House, with the Paris Hilton House, to, eventually raising capital?
Yeah, I mean, to get it, one thing you said there, we got a lot of attention very quickly because we kind of zigged when everyone else was zagging, right? People were just naturally interested in what we were doing. So the momentum grew organically, and we leaned into it, right? We cultivated the hype, we cultivated the attention, because we knew if Launch House was going to succeed, it needed to have that cool factor, it needed to have that idea of like a new take on an old idea, right? The old hacker house, the old idea of Silicon Valley being just in Palo Alto and then just in San Francisco. Now it could be anywhere. That idea, that concept could happen anywhere. So we needed to build something for that. We got to LA, we started bringing people into the house. I probably interviewed, 200 or 300 people in that December before we kicked things off in January. And we ran it for 3 months. We lived there during those 3 months. I was there off and on because I'm based in New York, but my co-founders were there full time. Basically at the end of those 3 months, we had brought about 100 people together into this community. They'd paid us for this experience. And I should note, we had actually tried to raise money before that a little bit, or at least we'd considered it. This was back after we did the Tulum house, before we went to LA. We were trying to see how to fund the LA experience. And before we decided to do it ourselves, we explored like, hey, do we have enough to get anyone interested, right? And the answer was like definitively no. Because we just had run these 2 houses and that was basically it. We talked with one person who wanted to take, a lot of the company for a very little amount of money. It just didn't make sense for us. So at that point, we put our money on the line. At the end of these months, we had started to get more attention. The caliber of people was only going up who was joining. And we kicked off a proper process at that point.
And was that your seed round that you guys were raising at that time?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like, I guess it was in between like a pre-seed and a traditional seed, right? It was a $3 million round, which, I mean, these days you could probably get away with as a seed, but back in, this is 2021, different times. So we called it a seed. We self-funded the pre-seed basically. And then this was our seed. And we brought in a couple high signal people early on and then used that to build momentum for the round and close the rest of it pretty quickly. Happy to talk more about that.
Yeah, no, let's talk about like kind of what are the lessons learned, what you guys do, what made your capital raise unique. Granted, it was like, hot times, lots of froth, but there still could be some valuable lessons could be applied today. So great for you to share those.
Yeah, I mean, we knew that the idea was, we hadn't even launched our subscription product yet, right? And so it was just one-time fees people were paying to join this community. And so we knew we needed high signal folks in early. And, thankfully between myself and my 2 co-founders, we built up a decent network for the last few years, previously in SF. And so our first investor was actually Balaji. And we were able to talk about how Launch House could become like a network state, right? Like a future city of builders creating the incredible things powering the future. And we were excited about that idea. He was excited about it. So he was actually our first check-in. Once we had him involved, we were able to basically talk about how it was going to be this big thing, and Balaji was interested. He put money in, and other investors got interested at that point too. We did tranche our round. So Balaji was our first believer. So we gave him we had him come in at a $5 million cap, and the end of the round was at 20, and that was like 2 months or 6 weeks, 6 weeks later, 6 weeks, 7 weeks later.
So you got a pretty sweet deal, Forex, paper return,
Yeah, pretty good paper return for sure. But I mean, when you believe in someone early, I think it's worth giving folks a discount, especially when they bring a lot to the table like he did.
So that is something I want to like unpack a little bit. And I feel a lot of founders, they kind of get this mindset, especially I think it's, some founders coming a little bit more down to earth, but I see some, like, I hate to use the word greed, but like a lot of founders are just like, oh, like we need to raise at, 10 million, 20 million. They're like still too early to justify that. But, when you're raising money, you want your investors to make money.
Yeah.
You want them to
Yep.
be along in the journey. You want them to support you. You want them bragging that they have a 4x return in 6 weeks.
Yep.
And, I think that's something that a lot of founders don't really realize. They get so hung up on valuation, dilution. It's like, well, you're not going to get anywhere without an army of support and excitement. So, you don't have to give away the farm. Like, you obviously turned down a previous investor, when the terms didn't make sense. And but when you got someone that can move the needle for you and or can create FOMO or credibility into your deal, it's not unreasonable to just sweeten the terms, for them.